Welcome back to my channel, Star Booze.
Just from the perspective of the texts, it claims that God is seated in the Joel Osteen spent 25 hours in heavens and laughing. Lakewood's transformation into America's great church in one horrifying. A woman's life altered in the afternoon, with a past mental health condition brought a rifle in a chapel and began firing. Osteen had more than one problem, from a dispute surrounding a $4.4 million COVID loan to charges of taking advantage of his ministry for financial gain. This explains how America's most well-known pastor had his darkest moments. On March 5th, Joel Osteen was born in Houston, Texas in 1963. He was the fifth of his family's 6 children. John was his father at the time of his birth, had experienced a significant shift in his sign 1958. John had a spiritual encounter. He referred to it as the Holy Spirit's baptism. It changed his perspective entirely. He quit the Southern Baptist Church and began a new project, and in Mother's Day, John established Lakewood Church in 1959. Initially, the church was modest, with only 90. Joel and others meeting in an old feed store watched his parents construct their church with diligence and perseverance. By the late 70s, the church had expanded to more than 5,000 individuals, making it one of Joel was the biggest in Houston. As a kid, was not at all like his father. John was fearless and vivacious while preaching, whereas Joel was bashful and preferred to avoid the limelight. Wasn't what you would have expected to take charge of a large church upon his 17th birthday. Joel deviated from the typical course of, rather than becoming a preacher, he traveled to Oklahoma's Oral Roberts University to study television and radio, but after he left school after just 1 year and proceeded he wanted to assist his father back home. Expand the television ministry in Lake W. that his future would be shaped by his choice. For 17 years, no one could have imagined Joel continued to assist behind the scenes. His father grew the TV and the church broadcasts and ensured that everything functioned effortlessly, but he didn't want to preach. Joel was reticent and anxious when he spoke in public, and he also believed his father's lecturing skills were so excellent that heckled and compete with him. Not even when John urged him to give it a shot, Joel consistently refused, saying he was content to stay working behind the scenes in his comfort zone of Camara. All changed in January. In 1999, John was hospitalized and Joel was unable to offer the weekly sermon. Ultimately consented to deliver the first sermon. He was anxious at the time, but he thought John died 6 days after he did it. Joel abruptly passed away at the age of 35. Ended up taking leadership of Lakewood. He didn't feel prepared for church, and many people questioned if he could manage it. Joel initially had self-doubt as well, but Joel did not abandon a verse from the Bible. David served God's purpose and inspired him. This provided Joel in his own generation with the to take charge in his own manner rather than attempting to emulate his father. He concentrated on his strengths, speaking in a composed, upbeat, and people adored the relatable style. Church began to expand quickly toward the end of the year. More services were provided here, added due to the high demand for Watch Lake television shows as well. Expanded to include millions of homes tapped at me. 5,000 people attended that time. The church each week after only 6 years. That figure increased to 30,000, which was a significant shift that is 5 times larger in such a brief period. Joel's manner of preaching was not the same. As threatening people with sin-related warnings, he emphasized optimism and hope. Messages that individuals like hearing support and opportunities. His extremely shortly after his father's first sermon established a standard for this fashion. By the year's conclusion, Joel formally became the leader of the church. Didn't only increase in population weekly arrival, it also reached more individuals worldwide via television. By Joel's lectures from 2005 were aired in this, benefited more than 100 countries. Reach millions of people with his message. Joel was also outside the church boundaries. Assisted the church's physical expansion. In 2001, Lakewood made the audacious choice to rent the Houston Compact Center. Now, the structure was once a basketball court. For remodeling it for the Houston Rockets, it was difficult to enter. A church devoted $95 million to converting it into added a worship hall with 16,000 seats, 5 stories. By 2005, everything felt entirely different. The church relocated to its present location. Growing to be America's largest church, they purchased the building later in 2010 directly for $7.5 million, which some people found surprising, because it appeared to be inexpensive, but experts outlined why it made sense. Citing the church had already invested a lot of money in. Lakewood Church is undergoing renovations today, welcomes over 45,000 visitors each year compared to some small towns a week. Additionally, Joel's sermons are heard by millions of Americans alone on TV and the internet. His sermons are viewed by 10 million people weekly, and his shows are aired in. Joel also communicates with more than 100 countries. Has millions of social media followers. His message is being further amplified by the media. What makes Lakewood unique on a global scale is the variety of people from different walks of life, diverse backgrounds come together, and that the church provides English language services, and Spanish is more than just religion. They hosted a memorable event in 2018. Kanye West, which generated 177,000 individuals, demonstrating how the church may reach Joel's style of preaching to new audiences is among the factors contributing to his success. The messages are straightforward, upbeat and simple to recognize that he prioritizes hope and sensible guidance rather than convoluted religious concepts. Some individuals adore this look since it feels upbeat while others provide criticism. Joel also steers clear of it since it is too light, discussing sin or judgment and claiming that headesiers want others to feel happy when they leave church. His strategy has been beneficial. Millions find a new way to connect with faith. Joel Osteen, nevertheless, has frequently been chastised for his emphasis on wealth and many refer to his success as his prosperity. The lessons of the gospel are more about becoming wealthier than true Christian principles. Osteen rose to the position of church leader in 1999, and his message ever since has been that God wants for people to be successful in life, including the financial aspects of his book, Your Best, the 2004 publication of Life Informs. Readers to have an optimistic outlook and anticipate blessings. He stated that believers ought to cease be modest and begin anticipating and arise in the supernatural. Critics contend that this isn't what Christianity is primarily about. The Bible frequently discusses giving up material prosperity and concentrating on spiritual items rather than, say, Jesus instructs people in the book of Luke to Osteen, give up everything you own. Sermons also steer clear of subjects like sin, and which is essential to rather. He employs traditional Christianity. A positive, self-help approach that excludes significant portions of the gospel at times. During interviews, he has been unclear on important ideas, such as whether the only path to heaven on top is by Jesus. Of his individual wealth, which is thought to be up to $100 million, has caused some to doubt his message. He makes a lot of money by selling books and giving critics paid speeches. Curious how a wealthy preacher can stand for Christian principles such as humility and selflessness, despite the fact that Osteen possesses enormous fan base. Lakewood Church is among the world's largest churches with his speeches and more than 50,000 members. Millions of people saw another large in 2020. There was controversy when people discovered that Lakewood Church had taken a $4.40 loan of millions. During the COVID-19 pandemic, the government provided the loan, initiative designed to support small businesses pay their employees when things are tough. Osteen's presence upset people. Rich, and the church already possesses a lot of funds, which they believed should visited tiny companies that really needed it. According to the church, paid their 368 employees using the loan and offer health coverage for their families, and they claimed to have waited to loan application till it became apparent that an extended period of the pandemic would. Nevertheless, they were condemned because other smaller groups were unable to obtain assistance after months of criticism. The church reimbursed the whole October 2021 $4.4 million, although the controversy caused others to wonder how large. One of the ways that churches manage their finances. Osteen's worst moments occurred during Hurricane Harvey in 2017. The hurricanes caused severe flooding in Houston and abandoned thousands of people. Numerous mosques and churches are homeless, volunteered to assist, but Lakewood, according to the church, it remained closed, was unable to open since the structure was. But internet videos revealed that the neighborhood surrounding the church appeared to be in good condition. People were incensed and charged Osteen with failing to assist when the community needed him the most. In fact, some claimed he was more concerned about preserving the church building than assisting others. After a few days of censure, Osteen declared that the church would welcome evacuees. He went on to say that the church was being cautious due to a previous flood in 2001, which had caused the structure to sustain damage. Added that the strategy was always to open as a shelter in case other locations get crowded. Osteen acknowledged in interviews that they could have handled things more skillfully. Everywhere, investigators subsequently discovered that the rifle she used was feeling cold, was inscribed with the word Palestine, and there were anti-Semitic articles in her possessions, which caused many to question if hatred was the driving force behind her acts. Marino had a history of mental health issues. Sickness in Shea was placed under emergency in 2016, incarceration due to mental health concerns. Although December she was able to lawfully purchase the firearm in 2023. This brought up important concerns regarding how she understood that the attack had occurred. Prior to the Spanish used at the church service that typically attracts a sizable audience, the timing didn't seem to be random. Escalating the anxiety in scenario. 2 security guards who were not on duty. One was a Houston, so they wasted no time. Police officer, while the other was employed by the Alcoholic Beverage Commission of Texas. They faced Moreno and had a conversation with her. The shooting was a terrible gunfight in which more than 30 rounds were fired. Before 2:07 p.m. Moreno washer onslaught ceased before she was shot and killed. The main sanctuary was open to her, which everyone found relieved. But the horror didn't stop there. Son 7 got ensnared in he was hit in the head by crossfire and taken to the hospital in a critical condition. It is still unknown if he was shot by his mother by accident or if it occurred during the gunfight. This tragic detail made the situation people were left with even more difficult to process, simply wondering how this could have occurred. When Moreno was the subject of warnings and her former mother-in-law had attempted to obtain the boys' custody in 2022, stating Moreno suffered from schizophrenia and might be violent, and she said that there ought to have restrictions that prohibit Moreno from purchasing a firearm following the shooting. Pastor Joel Osteen addressed his congregation in an attempt to reassure everyone. He acknowledged that Weticard was difficult to comprehend. "We don't understand the reasons behind these events," he remarked, "but we are aware that God is in charge of his message was about remaining resilient and maintaining faith." At the following Sunday service, he told everyone that they shouldn't be afraid. "Thank you for the security. Faith will prevail." Policemen and the team for halting the before she could cause additional damage. The shooter urged people to offer prayers not just for victims but for her, and more oftenly. His remarks demonstrated empathy even for someone who has gone through so much suffering. This shooting altered public perceptions. Churches, before they were locations believed to be tranquil and secure, many people are now nervous of going. Research revealed that 37% of regular people are anxious about going to church. After what transpired, services aren't not only about feeling secure, but also about how this anxiety is destroying the feeling of community that churches are meant to construct. The Houstonians displayed amazing assistance following the shooting. Over 2,000 individuals gathered in a matter of hours for a vigil outside Lakewood Church. They prayed, sang hymns, and lit candles. People of various religions joined together to show solidarity and affection to your local businesses. Moreover, assisted more than 50 eateries in providing plenty dinners for church employees and for mental health institutions provide anyone with free counseling. Blood donations impacted by the tragedy by 300% in only 3 days, with several donors claimed that the shooting inspired them to assist with something unexpected as well. Occurred following the church shooting. Houston's attendance increased significantly. Churches reported an increase of 20 to 30% arriving at services. It appears that difficult people may look to their faith and community. For the shooting's comfort and strength sparked a heated discussion on firearms and church safety. The shooter's legal status purged her firearm despite the fact that she had some claim that mental health issues. This indicates the necessity for more stringent regulations, such as improved background checks and psychiatric. Some contend that health screenings having armed guards at Lakewood demonstrates the good guy with a gun theory is effective, and that tougher regulations wouldn't prevent these types of assaults. In the meantime, Joel Osteen and his mission have encountered numerous difficulties and critiques throughout the years, particularly in relation to legal and financial issues are among the most significant. Events occurred in 2011 when John Emanuel and Richard Copo are musicians. Victoria Sue, Uday's wife, and they asserted ownership over Lakewood Church had utilized their song signaling unlawfully. Through the firing commercials for Osteen's DVD, the musicians remarked, "Supernatural." Lakewood Church was granted permission to utilize the song for a year, but in February it ended. The church continued to use it in 2011 without the band asked for $3 in order to get authorization. Damages of millions that resulted in a T-leak. The spokesperson for Lakewood Church, Batloloff, rejected the case as absurd to claim that the music was simply a minute of background music. Reaction generated additional debate, with the attorney for the plaintiff stating that everyone was subject to copyright restrictions, including churches. The case continued for some months, attracting media coverage and increasing inquiries concerning the use of elements protected by copyright. In February 2012, the judge decided in Lakewood Church's favor, claiming that the license agreement did not address the musicians' assertions despite Osteen and his church's victory. The lawsuit affected their reputation and emphasized the intricate problems enormous churches encounter when addressing property owned by Lakewood Church. Additionally, money has been a source of vexation. The church has a yearly budget approximately $90 million, along with an explanation of its in one fiscal year. Spending sparked concerns. Every year, $31.7 million was spent on $6.7 million in services for events like Asop's Night, $25.1 million on the Ministry of Television, and $1.5 million on administrative expenses. However, were $1.2 million were spent on outreach and missions. Critics claim that this demonstrated an emphasis on advancing the church instead of providing assistance at community gatherings such as the Night of Hope Card 50 ticket, raising additional worries regarding marketing of Osteen's individual. Additionally, riches has been a hot topic on his net, projected to be worth $40 million, and his River Oaks, Houston home is valuable. The 17,000 square foot mansion has $10.5 million, 3 bathrooms, 6 bedrooms, and 6 bathrooms. Critics of a pool house and elevators wonder if such privilege is suitable for a religious figure. According to Osteen, he ceased accepting a church salary in 2005 and that his riches originate from his best-selling novels. Some people nonetheless contend that the church's wide media presence is beneficial, blurring the borders in order to sell his books between the church and his own financial gains. So the absence of financial transparency exacerbates these issues. Like other places of worship, Lakewood Church companies are not required to adhere to identical reporting standards to those of charities. Insiders have found it challenging to check the way money is being spent, which leads to doubts regarding the church's priorities. The U.S. Senate Finance Committee in 2007 examined a number of prosperity gospel pastors for perhaps misusing their tax exemption. Even if Osteen wasn't involved of the inquiry, it provided more The motion of several of the preachers under investigation were charged with utilizing contributions for private indulgence like luxurious homes and private planes. The inquiry didn't yield any charges, but it made clear the necessity of increased financial responsibility between religious institutions. Extravagant listly has frequently been contrasted with those of additional contentious prosperity. Critics of gospel figures claim that is well not consistent with what Christians believe. Despite this, I believe in humility and aiding the needy. This tin is still quite well-liked services. Draw tens of thousands of people weekly attendees as well as millions more observe him on TV. He frequently defends his accomplishment by expressing gratitude to God appear in various forms, and that he doesn't advocate for everyone to become wealthy instead. He highlights that people ought to believe in the way God operates. Osteen has also responded to inquiries. He quarrels about his house and way of life, that having is not contrary to God's will. The life of Joel Osteen is filled with fascinating tales, both financial and personal. On April 4, 1987, Victoria Elof and I were married, and they have been life partners and ministry from Victoria's birth. On March 28, 1961, Huntsville AL. She did more than only remain in the background. She joined Lakewood as a co-pastor. Church is directly next to Joel and Jonathan, their two children, and their jobs. Alexander was born in 1998, while she was born in 1995. Both were raised in the company of their parents' church life and subsequently became involved in. They even got together and started a band. LI stands for Lakewood Young. The band creates lively worship for grown-ups, music to engage with youth. They released Felina, their debut single, in 2016, and an EP in the following year. 2019 was referred to as Volume 1 when college time arrived. Jonathan and instead Alexandra shocked a lot of people. Of pursuing theological education, they visited the Austin's University of Texas is 2 hours away. Jonathan graduated from their home in 2017 with a degree in film, television, and radio. Alexandra, however, completed in 2020. Jonathan made headlines once more in 2022 when he wed Sophia Han in a private ceremony. Event. They were so subdued that Jonathan hasn't shared anything on Instagram because 2020 provided no information. Joel's money has also been a source of popular subject. He claims that he has not received payment from since 2005. Lakewood Church has payment for his publications and other goods such as calendars and inspiring manuals. His publications are incredibly so well-liked that he has amassed millions from the actual Lakewood Church is powered by an enormous budget of roughly $70 million. Annually. In December, the church paid off a $100 million debt in 2023 loan that some were astounded at and made others wonder how they handled their. Joel Osteen has emerged as one of few world's most well-known pastors, and the narrative demonstrates his connection with his debut novel was read by millions of people. The 2004 release of Best Life Now was an enormous success, selling over 4 million copies and remained on lists of bestsellers. People adored the book for more than 2 years, since it was straightforwardly affirmative and provided wishing everybody who reads it afterward luck. That he authored further novels, such as Becoming a 2007 was a terrific year for you, and Now is Your Chance to 2009, which were likewise highly well-liked by his more than 50 translations of the novel's languages. Therefore, individuals from nations like as Brazil, India, and China were able to read them. Additionally, the proceeds from these works were such Joel ceased receiving a paycheck because of this, departed his place of worship in 2005, and only lived. Joel's sermons on his book earnings are well-liked, not only in church but also on his weekly messages viewed on TV as well. By more than 10 million Americans. However, what truly made him well-known was appearing on programs such as Oprah Winfrey on her 2007 show. Oprah presented him to an larger audience and they were successful, working together on more projects, such as a live incident that took place at Joel's church in 2012. He also made an appearance on programs such as Good Morning America and Larry King's Residence, where he discussed faith and common problems. Joel even appeared in unexpected locations, such as Tyler Perry's comedy show in 2016, in which he performed, both on the late-night performance of Jimmy Fallon in 2013, in which he made jokes and demonstrated Joel's playful attitude on social media, even caused him more well-liked by 2025. With over 8.5 million Facebook followers, 5.7 million and 1 million on Twitter, he shares brief videos on Instagram every day. Uplifting words that people enjoy. Share a Facebook post, for instance, in 2024 received more than 500,000 likes in a single day amid difficult times, such as 2023, when his message was that the economy was having trouble. About remaining resilient was discussed over 1 million times, and it started to trend. Subject on which he also conducts live sessions. responding to queries and offering them optimism that his squad even received. Facebook took notice of how well they are working to establish a solid online community despite Joel's immense fame as a pastor. He continues to put in a lot of labor. There are more than 50,000 people at Lakewood Church. Weekly attendance. And Joel provides 2 Sunday sermons. He gets there early to get ready and meet individuals to demonstrate how much his wife Victoria supports him since he cares for her. Other pastors and a co-pastor at the Joel also manages the everyday tasks of the church. Began major events known as America Show's Night, in which he addresses in stadiums across the nation. Thousands. One of these occasions in Dallas in 2023 had 880,000 individuals. Joel had to deal with difficulties with Hurricane Harvey as well, and he received criticism in 2017 for not opening his church as a place of refuge immediately. But he answered promptly, putting hundreds of feeding thousands of people and hundreds of other additional supplies, which demonstrated how he uses his notoriety to truly change the world. The majority of Joel Osteen's life is about bringing hope, whether via his literature, television, social media, or face-to-face sermons, and his upbeat message has moved millions and keeps motivating people worldwide.